green light and they can do whatever they want. Where that is very rare to get drafted and be able to control the whole system.
Right. Was CC making decisions like?
Yeah.
Within, yeah.
As she should.
No way.
As she should, but I also think that
Stop what you're doing, because Sophie Cunningham just exposed what the WNBA never wanted to get out. Caitlin Clark didn't just clash with Stephanie White's system, she tore it apart piece by piece just to play the game her way. And here's what most people completely missed. This wasn't some rookie struggling to adapt to the pros. This was a generational superstar trapped inside a system that never fit her. A coach with the wrong plan, the wrong tempo, and the wrong vision for a player like Clark. What happened next turned into a quiet war inside the Fever locker room. A battle for control that shaped their entire season. You're about to see exactly how that tension unfolded behind the scenes, how it derailed Indiana's shot at a title, and the breaking point that changed everything. Most analysts never even got close to the real truth, but by the end of this, you'll understand why Caitlin Clark's injury wasn't the only reason she didn't come back.
So this is what Caitlin Clark said, and I shared this before. This is what Caitlin Clark said when joining.
That's the reason why I came here, and that's what she preached to me in the recruiting process. You know, you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot. And I think a lot of my final schools kind of had that same look, but I think the read and react offense that we run was super important for myself. You know, you're making basketball reads. It's not a set. You're not being told what to do every single time you come down the floor. You're just playing the game you love. You're flowing freely. You're playing off your teammates, and that was super, super important for myself. And I think also the past success of what they've done, like it was proven that it was very successful. They've proven that they're a great offensive team. So that really...
Pay close attention to those words. You're going to have the ball in your hands a lot. A read and react offense. No strict commands, no overcoaching, just freedom, just basketball. That's Caitlin Clark describing why she picked Iowa, her personal formula for greatness. But then came Stephanie White, and everything flipped. The moment she took over in Indiana, she installed the complete opposite system. A slow, half-court offense straight out of Connecticut's playbook. It was rigid, structured, and centered around Wnba Bonner's deliberate, methodical rhythm, not Caitlin's lightning-fast tempo. And here's what every Fever fan should be worried about. Stephanie White knew exactly how Caitlin played before she even accepted the job. Yet she went ahead and built her system anyway.
It is interesting to see how they've grown to be teammates, because both of them need the ball in their hands.
Okay, yes, they both need the ball in their hands, but the difference is Kelsey Mitchell don't pass the ball once it's in her hands. Caitlin Clark does pass the ball. Caitlin Clark led the league in assists. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? I get it. Sophie is trying to make everybody, she's trying to give the story while making everyone look good as well.
Here's the reality. Both players can't dominate the ball at the same time, but Sophie's trying to gloss over something major. Kelsey Mitchell averaged just 2.1 assists per game, while Caitlin Clark led the entire league with 8.4. These aren't two players fighting for the same role. This is a pure scorer and a full-fledged playmaker. Yet Stephanie White treated them like they were identical. She split the ball handling duties, used Caitlin like a shooting guard running off screens, and worst of all, she actually played her at small forward for entire games. Not minutes, not quarters, whole games. That's like taking Steph Curry and telling him to stand in the corner and wait for a pass. That's exactly what happened in Indiana, and believe it or not, it only went downhill from there.
This is when they played Atlanta. Look, watch this. So this is Caitlin frustrated. Caitlin is very frustrated. Now, in this game sequence of this clip, you can see Caitlin. Let me pause this. So that is Caitlin yelling at Stephanie.
Pause that moment right there. You can see it all in Caitlin Clark's body language. The frustration written across her face, the jaw tightening, the quick turn away mid-conversation. This was the Atlanta game. The moment everything boiled over, insiders have confirmed what fans only speculated about. That wasn't a tactical chat on the sideline. That was Caitlin reaching her breaking point after being forced to play off the ball, touching it just twice in a 4-minute stretch. It was the Connecticut-style system on full display. Slow, rigid, and completely suffocating her game. And Stephanie White's reaction? Instead of changing course, she doubled down.
With Kelsey.
Now, before she gets into the Kelsey Mitchell part, Stephanie White, you knew you were coming to the Indiana Fever You should already know the system Caitlin wants to play. Why did she have to make changes to your system to play her game? And we also know that this did not go over so smoothly because we saw Stephanie White taking shots at her on TV. We saw the back and forth argument when Caitlin Clark was going off on her in the tunnel during the Atlanta Dream game when they were going into the tunnel for halftime.
She finally had to speak up, to flat out say, what's going on here? Think about that for a second. The #1 overall pick, the player who packed arenas night after night, the face of the franchise whose arrival doubled the team's value, had to convince her own coach to let her play her style of basketball. That's not teamwork. That's not building a system together like every great championship squad does. That's a full-blown clash of philosophies. And someone had to give in. But here's the question nobody's asking. Why was Stephanie White so resistant? She saw what Caitlin Clark did at Iowa. 19 points, 8 assists, logo threes, full court vision, and the chaos that shattered defenses. Yet she chose to build a system that stripped away everything that made Caitlin special.
Up, didn't make it. Damn near came close, but you didn't come close enough. Ain't that what happened in Connecticut with this same damn offense she was running? Wait. That was the same thing that happened. They damn near got there, but they...
Runner-up again, close, but not close enough. That was Connecticut under Stephanie White's system. And now, take a look at Indiana's playoff story. Same ending, 1 game short. That's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. Proof that White's half-court methodical style can take you near the finish line, but never across it. In clutch moments, it becomes predictable. Against elite defenses, it slows to a crawl. And worst of all, it forces star players to shrink themselves to fit the system, instead of building the system around their talent. Connecticut couldn't win it with that formula. Indiana couldn't either. But what makes this story truly explosive is what happened next.
Let me see.
Because those types of athletes, they get to come into an organization, they have the green light and they can do whatever they want. Where that is very rare to get drafted and be able to control the whole system.
Right. Was CC making decisions like...
Yeah.
Within, yeah.
As she should.
No way.
As she should, but I also think that go
ahead. That's crazy. I didn't realize that. She's just young. I just didn't think that.
But when you have a generational talent like that, she should have a lot to say.
Stephanie White's frustration was written all over her face every time Caitlin Clark started doing her thing. She called it hero ball. But here's the twist. She never used that label when Kelsey Mitchell went one-on-one or fired up contested shots. She never benched her for it. That double standard says it all. Stephanie wanted Kelsey as the go-to option because she fit the Connecticut mold. A slow, calculated half-court scorer who doesn't speed up the game. Caitlin, on the other hand, brought controlled chaos, fast breaks, unpredictability, and creativity that couldn't be coached or contained. Instead of leaning into that brilliance, Stephanie tried to rein it in. When Caitlin hit that 38-foot dagger against New York, White criticized it. When she pulled up from the logo or threw full-court lasers for easy layups, all of it was labeled reckless, too risky, or outside the offense. Every tool that made Caitlin Clark a generational player was treated like a flaw.
It's the system. Mike said Sophie Cunningham confirms that many of us knew this. Caitlin Clark has a lot to say. Will have a lot to say over the offensive system. Anyone that knows ball knows something changed after halftime of their Atlanta game, and it stayed.
Something shifted after halftime of that Atlanta game, and it carried straight through the matchup with Dallas. In plain terms, Caitlin Clark stopped waiting for approval. She took over. She called her own shots, ignored the drawn-up plays, and ran the floor her way. And what happened next? The Fever played their best basketball of the entire season. Caitlin's usage skyrocketed, her assists climbed, and the team's tempo exploded. Suddenly, Indiana looked like a legitimate powerhouse, right up until injuries halted their momentum. But that leads to the real question at the heart of all this. If Caitlin Clark's style unlocked the team's best version of itself, why did she have to fight so hard just to be allowed to play that way?
Not bring your Connecticut system, have her playing small forward for a handful of games, and now she gotta change the system and enforce her power? Come on now. Come on now. You got to read between the lines on some things. Here.
Mitchell, like those two, it is very interesting to see how that they have. It is interesting to see how they've grown to be teammates because both of them need the ball in their hands.
When you draft a generational player, you don't force them to adapt to your playbook. You build the playbook around them. You sit down and ask, what works for you? What do you want to run? That's how you unleash greatness. LeBron's teams were built around his drive and kick dominance. Steph Curry's Warriors were designed around his off-ball movement and shooting gravity. Luka Doncic's Mavericks revolve around his pick-and-roll brilliance. That's how elite franchises win. Would they elevate their stars instead of restricting them? Stephanie White did the complete opposite. She came in with a rigid system already in place, never tailored it to Caitlin Clark's strengths, and then acted shocked when it failed to bring out her full potential. The arrogance behind that decision is unreal, and the waste of talent absolutely criminal.
And when they both can elevate each other, that team is unstoppable. You get what I'm saying?
I agree. When Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell are both playing like at a high level, and I do feel like they have good chemistry. Like we saw it second half of the season, even at points this season. Like I don't think there was ever a Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark.
Honestly, this all traces back to Stephanie White's system. Sophie Cunningham basically cleared Kelsey Mitchell of any tension with Caitlin Clark, and she's absolutely right. This was never a chemistry issue. Kelsey and Caitlin could have thrived together perfectly. One's a downhill scorer, the other's the offensive engine. But White's system turned them into competitors instead of complements by splitting up ball handling duties instead of establishing a clear hierarchy. Great teams always know who their leader is. The 2016 Warriors revolved around Steph. The 2020 Lakers ran entirely through LeBron. Indiana never had that clarity because Stephanie White refused to officially hand the keys to Caitlin Clark. She wanted equality, balance, multiple playmakers, all nice in theory, but when the playoffs hit and the pressure's on, you don't need balance. You need your best player controlling everything.
When Stephanie White was in Connecticut, we all remember there was some runner-ups, and what happened? The same shit happened again. Runner-up. Blame it on injuries all you want. Stephanie White offense cannot get y'all to a championship. Caitlin can. At the end of the day, Caitlin's system read and react, that can. Guys, get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this, man. Keep them bells on. I will be back.
Here's the timeline no one's connecting. After that emotional outburst in the Atlanta game, Caitlin Clark forced changes to the system, and everything flipped. The Fever caught fire. They stormed into the playoffs, getting stronger with every round. But then came the setback, Caitlin's injury. She never returned for the finals. With her out, Indiana went back to Stephanie White's Connecticut-style system. Rigid, slow, predictable. And what happened? Same story. They fell short again, runner-up. Now ask yourself, was Caitlin's absence really the only reason they lost? Or did the team simply revert to a system that's proven to be good enough to compete, but never good enough to win? That's the harsh reality. Stephanie White finally got to run things her way, and the outcome was identical to Connecticut, second place. So now Indiana's front office faces a defining choice. Do they build around Caitlin's read and react freedom, or stick with Stephanie's structure that's already failed twice to bring home a title? The league is watching. The fans want answers, and Caitlin Clark, she's already proven, if she has to fight for her style again, she will. What do you think? Does Stephanie finally adapt, or does Indiana risk wasting a once-in-a-generation talent?